This is Moments with Foo with James Foo Torres, better known as Foo, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant people on the planet, hear their stories, and get the most important business lessons they have learned on their road to success, and get exclusive advice on how to implement their success into your life and business. Moments with Foo is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board and your host, Foo.
Hello and welcome to Moments with Foo. I'm your host, James Foo Torres, or you can call me Foo, hence the name of the podcast. And today I have Todd Wilson. He's a loan officer and the author of Crack the Credit Code. And I'm going to let him tell you more about that. But first, Todd, how are you?
I'm doing well. I thank you for having me on, Foo. And how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's Friday, feeling good about just finishing the week. I'm going to go to rave later, so that's my therapy session. When I go and decompress and just forget about business for a while. But yeah, no, I'm excited for this conversation. So let's kick it off with a quick introduction about yourself and your company.
Okay. Well, I started in the mortgage industry like back in 2001, knew absolutely nothing, literally nothing, and I had to learn from the very bottom. It was kind of like going to kindergarten, being the one kid that has never even learned any of the alphabet. And so, I started learning the business and, started learning about credit. But then when things fell apart in 2008, my credit fell apart too, because my income dropped 80% in 1 year. And so, I filed bankruptcy, foreclosure, everything. And so I had to figure out how to rebuild my credit, but I was really hesitant because I knew I'd gotten in trouble with credit before. So I didn't use credit for 3 years. And then I started to realize how much it was holding me back. I mean, I couldn't buy a house, couldn't buy a car, couldn't even rent a car or get a hotel room without a lot of trouble. So I had to figure out how to rebuild my credit and start over again. And so when I did that, I called people that I knew in the mortgage industry because, they knew about credit too. And I was shocked that nobody knew until finally somebody told me how to get my first account. And they said, oh, get a secured credit card. I didn't think I'd get approved, but I did. And after a few months, I checked my credit and my score was actually higher than it had ever been before. So I went, okay, I don't want to mess this up again. So I got to figure out what to do. And so I did a ton of research, made sure I didn't mess things up. But as I was doing it, I found out there were 87 million Americans that had bad credit. And what most people don't know about is there were another 45 million that had no credit score at all, which means that was over half the adult population had either bad credit or no credit. And that's kind of what led me to write my book, because I realized that I wasn't alone and there were a lot of people that need help.
Damn. Yeah, no, that's crazy to think. Because for me, my mom, that's one of the biggest things that she did taught me. It was not deep into credits and how they work or anything, but she was like, oh, like credit is important. I pay everything with credit cards. I pay in time, and then I build my credit, and then every time that I need to leverage it, I can't, right? So I had that growing up. Like all my life, I saw my mom. My mom is super open with us. So sometimes too open. but we knew everything, right? And we were always in the loop with everything that she was doing. And so I saw her, she's like, yes, oh, let me get points. And it's like, oh, with points I can get free gas or free stuff. So then I always grew up with that in my mind. So I knew that it was like, and then I started learning about like, oh, credit is basically like your adult report card, because
Right.
that's what people know if they can trust you with money or not. And for me, that was like a big thing. So I made it a big focus on mine as soon as I started getting my first full-time job, which was with the Air Force. I took a credit card as soon as I could, and instead of getting a secure credit card, because I just didn't want to do that, I took a card with the military. So it's like, oh, like the military did this military star that you can only buy like in base and like inside of the base in the BX or PX, whatever. So I did that first couple months, and then applied for a real credit card in Navy Federal. They approved me one for like $2,000. I was like, wow, my first credit card, like 2,000 or 3,000. I was like, wow, like this is amazing. So I started paying everything, like all my bills, literally every single bill, my phone, everything that I could put in credit card, I started doing. I started building and got pretty high. and then that's how, I got my house in at 2.25%. And that's
Nice.
something like almost like that's probably not gonna be hurt. You're not gonna hear of an interest that low in probably years, if ever, right? Because like,
Right, right.
so like all those things I managed to leverage because of my mom, and that's why. But it's crazy to think that over half of adult Americans don't have credit or bad credit, because it's something that I just grew up with, right? And it's crazy to think of that. And then things happen in the business, and my credit now is like not as high as it was when I got this house and all everything. But it's part of like challenges, like you had to, right? So it's always like, even if and that's the thing, even if sometimes there's things that happen, and you get sort of in there. So on that note, right, like people that know, people that don't know, they might, especially now with the recession that's happening. Look, you even told me earlier, right, that 20%, there's a 20% increase from year over year on people going bankruptcy. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, January of this year, there's 20% more bankruptcy filings than there were January of last year.
That is kind of crazy and alarming. And this is the
It
big, like,
is.
this is most likely gonna get worse because we're just kind of starting out. What's your
And
take on that?
well, I think you're right. I think it definitely could get worse because a lot of the people that normally would have filed bankruptcy, they were able to hold off because of all the stuff having to do with COVID, where you don't have to make payments on your mortgage, and they go, oh, okay, I can make it through. I can make it through. And then what happened was it got extended, and then they got to the point where now they can't catch up. And so if the bank doesn't modify their loan to a point where it's affordable for them, then what else are they going to do? I mean, yeah, they could sell the house. That's a possibility. Unfortunately, there are not that many people who are upside down on their house now, but people don't want to sell their house. So what's the option? It's like, well, I can file bankruptcy, and then I can keep my house and just get rid of all this other debt that I've got, whatever that may be.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just hopefully we take a turn for the best in the next, not too far, let's say, right? Because it's hard to even estimate nowadays. But, on that note of, talking about this bankruptcy, talking about credit, uh, for, personal and business owners, given that my audience are business leaders, what advice do you have for people, and something that people can take action, right? Like if it's looking for information or taking action on certain directions. So what kind of actionable tips do you have for the audience?
Well, I think one really big thing when you're a business owner, especially a small business owner, is to be able to utilize your credit to take advantage of opportunities so you can make money from it. And having your credit as an asset instead of as a liability, you have the opportunity to do that. But even when you do it, you have to do it correctly. For example, let's say you've got a $5,000 credit card. And now most of the people would think, well, hey, they gave me a $5,000 credit card. I shouldn't be penalized because I'm using $5,000 on that card. They said I could, but what happens is it causes your credit score to go way down. And then you can't get more credit because your score is down. So you have to pay it down before you can get the credit you need now. So what you really want to do with that is you take that, you go, okay, I've got $5,000. I want to use it, but you want to keep your usage to about 30%. And so what you want to do is get more credit than you need to use. And so if you figure I'm going to use, you know, 5,000, you go, okay, well, I should have 20,000 in available credit card, limits. And that way you use 5,000, you're still at 25%, which is under the 30% threshold to be in the ideal range.
Yeah, that is, credit utilization. It's a big factor to get
It
credit. I,
is.
I do know that. And so other than credit utilization, is there any, let's say, golden nugget or something that you have seen that you might you see a lot of people missing, right? Like something that could be small, could be big, but something that you see a lot of people missing that could really have a very positive impact when getting credit or business credit, or how to leverage credit better. Is there anything that you have identified like that?
Yeah. And I think one thing that's really key in that area is knowing exactly what you've got, because there's a tendency to, you have your credit cards and you go, okay, I know I've got X number of credit. Let's say you got 5 credit cards. I know I've got 5 credit cards. I kind of know what the limits are in all of them. I know what the balances are in all of them. But then you also add in your other bills. You've got mortgage or rent. You've got your car insurance or homeowners insurance. You've got other things. You've got utilities, and keeping track of all that so that you don't have late payments is really important. And it's not something that's really taught in schools. I mean, you can take accounting in schools, and I did, but it wasn't particularly useful. It's like, yeah, I'm a math guy, so it was kind of fun for me, but it's not something that I use because the systems they teach you in school are not really something you can apply to your own life. I mean, they're designed for, these Fortune 500 businesses, and, with the advent of computers, however, many decades ago, it's all changed anyway. They don't do it the same way. And so if you can have a system, even if it's just as simple as an Excel spreadsheet where you list out every account that gets paid every month and the amount that you pay and the total balance, and even adding other information that might be useful to you, you always know how much you owe at all times.
And that can help you for cash flow projections, and like, because whatever doesn't get tracked, like, just gets lost, right? Like, you don't
Right.
know where it's at, right? So that is very important. So that's why I've seen a lot of people, like one of my clients, Derek Fay, he's a 9-figure guy, like worth over 250 million. He still checks his bank account all the time, and it's like a it's a thing that he developed. He's grew up for very humble beginnings, like very like projects poor, and now like he's being able to even get to like the 9 figures, and he still like acts like on that mentality of like, I need to track everything and I need to make sure that I have everything. And obviously, I mean, that's why the wealthy stay wealthy, right? Because they keep with those disciplines that they were doing
They,
even when
they
they
got
didn't
them
have
there.
money, right? That
Yeah,
got them there.
that's
Right?
right.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny, right? Because I talk, like, he's one of my clients, like nine figures, and then I have another 8-figure client too, and he tells me about the same thing. He's like, I sometimes I'm like, okay, first of the month, I gotta go grind super hard and stuff. And this guy's like making over 20 millions a year, and he's like, oh my god, I gotta, like, he gets in that survival mode almost, and then he realizes like, oh wait, like, I don't have to be like this, but I still have bills to pay, a lot of mouths to feed, right? Because when you are that level, then you also have a lot of responsibilities, a lot of employees and
That's right.
assistant contractors and all that. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to surround myself with those people, to be honest. It's they give me very good perspective, and it's pretty cool. I learn a lot from them. So I love my clients.
That's good.
Yeah. So is there any like biggest takeaways that you want to leave the audience with? Anything that prior to kind of wrapping this up, is there any like one or two things that you want to leave the audience with?
Yeah, there's I could go on for probably hours, but let's not do that. um, Number one, I would say is as far as credit inquiries, like having somebody pull your credit, do that only when you actually need to apply for credit. As opposed to when you go into Target and they say, hey, you can get 10% off everything you spend, you're already in line.
Great.
I mean, how much you're gonna spend? Okay, maybe a couple $100, and you go, okay, 10%. So you get a 10% discount on $200. So you get $20, and now you have probably the highest interest rate card that you've got, you know, and it's not going to have a high enough limit to really be useful. I mean, maybe they give you a couple $1,000s, but it's not going to change your credit in a positive way. So, I would say when you're having your credit pulled, you want to make sure A, that you need it, and B, that you have a pretty good chance of getting approved.
That's a big one. Yeah, that's a big one. Because if they pull it and then they affect your credit and then you didn't even get approved, like, there's literally nothing good and bad did
Right,
happen,
right. It's like, well, yeah, wasted that one.
And just if you know, like, every time that they pull your credit, it's like about 10 points, 15 points. What do you know, like, and how long does
There,
that take to take
there's
out?
actually no set number of points because it depends on what's on your credit report. So let's look at it this way. So Credit inquiries and new accounts combined make up 10% of your score. And so if you don't have any new accounts, then, you know, to that degree, it's not going to affect your score negatively. And then if you pull your credit once or twice, it shouldn't make that much of a difference. But let's take, for example, you have a guy that's got, 20 accounts and has his credit pulled and he's got, 20 years of history or more, one inquiry, negligible difference, nothing to worry about. But then you got somebody who's got one account, he's had it for 6 months. So now he's finally got a score. And then he goes shopping for a car loan. And he continues shopping for a car loan for like 3 months because he's not sure. And his credit score goes down, down, down the whole time because he's pulling his credit unnecessarily because he's not ready to buy the car. But the car dealerships, they want you to be approved. They want, oh yeah, wait, well, let's send you the finance manager, right?
Yeah, no, they will try to do whatever it takes to get you there. Doesn't matter if
That's
it's
right.
gonna be the highest interest possible, but the sale has to happen.
That's right. It's only $750 a month, and the guy's making like $3,000 a month. It's like, well, it's only 25% of his check. It's like, well,
Yeah,
why would you spend 25% of your check on a new car? Well, the car dealership, they don't care. They want to make a sale.
it's up to
As soon
you
as you make
to
the
protect
first six
yourself.
payments, they're off the hook.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's a great advice. That's something that um I'm gonna keep in mind more to tell people because I haven't thought about that. Like, look, if you're gonna go 10% is not worth the time to go through it to then like if you get approved and stuff, unless like let's say that you are buying furniture, you're buying fridge or like big stuff. Like now it's hundreds of dollars, right? And
Right.
it's like different. And then you can maybe they give you like 0% interest for a year, or that's different, right? That's
Right.
different. That's different. But if it's just look, you're in Target, you're in and you're buying like $100 worth of something, maybe $200, like this is just not worth it. You're
Right.
Ross, you're Marshalls, whatever, it's not worth it. It really isn't. If it's not thousands and thousands of dollars,
Right.
don't even
It's not enough to change your life.
it's
You know, you
but it
know?
is significant in your credit. So like it could be, right? It could be. So like don't even take the chance. Don't even waste the time, right? Because it's a waste of time too. You gotta be there and blah blah. And even if they make it easy, don't fall from that. So that's a great takeaway. Thank you for that. And one question about kind of related to that. I heard like that sometimes if and this is like not like all the time by what I heard is sometimes when you're buying for a car, if it's not for 3 months, like you said, but like if it's within the same week or something, you're kind of shopping around like right there. They don't. They do conglomerate them to be less, or did it just like every time it's just gonna hurt you a lot? Like it's just I heard something. I don't know how true what that was or not.
Okay, so there's two things about that. One is that you have either a 2 week or a 45-day period. And it depends on what credit bureaus, or not credit bureaus, what credit reports they're pulling, because there are so many different versions of the FICO score. And there's like the FICO score 8. You go online, with Experian, and you get your FICO score 8. There is not a single lender that uses that score, not one. And so whatever your score is there, it gives you an idea, but it's not the one. And so that's one of the newer ones. The older ones, like for example, in mortgage and car loans are the same thing here. They use the older ones because that's what they've used for a long time. So for those older ones, it's a 2 week period. So if you go shopping for a car or for a mortgage, you go, okay, I want to check around. I want to check around. Do it within the 2 week period so that you can have your credit pulled as many times as you want and it counts as one time.
That's amazing. So it's 2 weeks. That's like that a good rule of thumb to when they're
Yeah,
pulling all this credit. That's good. That's good to know. I think that's a great takeaway too. So I'm glad that I asked.
me too. People need to know this stuff. And they
Yeah,
don't
no.
teach you in schools, because I was talking to somebody the other day and they said, well, you know why they don't teach you in schools? Because the teachers have the same trouble with everybody as everybody else with credit, so they don't know either.
Yep. That happens a lot. I mean, it's It's a big problem. Just that's why, like, what's cool and everything is so important. And nowadays, I've seen more and more people, especially since COVID, more and more people are homeschooling and building their own
Yep.
stuff. And for me, like, if I ever have kids, because I don't even feel like I want to have kids, but if I ever do, like, I would like to do, like, because I'm big into communities. Like, I'm building my own community for my business, and I'm a community guy, like I always been. And I want to have my tribe, right? I want to have my tribe.
Nice.
So, and like, not just like virtual anything, like have a place, like we have this place, and then we create our own school, and we have, because we can do most things online anyway, right? So if we're self-sufficient in a tribe, that's what I envision for my future. And somewhere, nice weather, and just maybe in Puerto Rico, right? Because I'm from there, I really like it. Or maybe somewhere in, I don't know, maybe I end up in South America. Who knows? Who knows what's gonna happen? But I just want nice weather. I just want to have like my people, and just having having our own school. Basically, I always thought that to make my own school when growing up, because I want to make sure that I am teaching the right things to survive this cruel world. Like,
Yeah.
there's so, like, I feel like I've been fortunate enough to be well educated, and I still don't know so many important things, or didn't know. What There's a lot that I don't know, but I've learned a lot in my 2 years and 7 months of entrepreneurship, because
Sure.
I've had to. So
Well,
that's
yeah,
what
but
I
I mean, there's a
envision.
lot to know. I mean, you can't know everything, but if you can surround yourself with people who know this stuff you don't know, you can have a huge shortcut. I mean, just take anything. I mean, like, okay, you want to learn how to fix a car. You don't just dive right in and start removing parts. You go with somebody that knows what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, some people do, but they are crazy. So don't
Yeah,
follow
I'm
their
not that
advice.
guy. I changed
Yeah.
my oil one time and I went, okay, now I know how to do it. I'm never doing it again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very careful. Like, the only things that I am willing to do is things that I ask at first, or watch YouTube videos or something. If this is slightest like thing that I need some expertise or something, it's like, look, I'm not touching this because I want to make it worse. So no, I completely like understand. So that, that's the thing where, like, if you can have a community, and then you learn from each other's mistakes, and you can build something together, there's always just some huge benefits. So that's why I love it. So I just want to say thank you for taking the time. I think that we covered some good stuff. I really like that this last part the most, to be honest, just like, because that's why I like those golden nuggets that a lot of people do know, but a lot of people don't even like overlook. Those are like the most valuable things a lot of times. So, thank you
Yeah.
for
Well,
coming
and to
here and bringing that.
confirm whether something you've heard is true or not.
Yeah, that's why, because I was like, look, I heard it, but now that I have an expert in my podcast, this is the time. If there's a time to ask, this is it, And that's why I love doing this podcast, because I try to really take advantage of it, right? Like, I'm learning a lot through it, and I record it now, so then I can share it with the world. And now that's in YouTube, and that be there, and then can be infinitely leveraged through time, right? Evergreen content, because this is like, things might change a little bit, but credit, like he said, like Todd said, like, it's old. They're still using the old credit bureaus, old
That's
systems and
right.
stuff, and it doesn't seem to be changing that much. So yeah. But anyway, thanks again for taking the time. I think there was a pleasant conversation, and there was definitely some value, and credit is extremely important. So definitely everybody should take 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 control of their credit, so they can leverage it to have more freedom in their life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So again, this was so good. So I'm just gonna wrap it up with saying that I like saying, like, you don't get what you want, you get what you believe. This is something that Terry Six Johnson taught me, and it was so impactful for me, that I want everybody to know that believe in yourself. That's the most important thing. And another thing is that at the end, everything is gonna be okay. And if it's not okay, it's not the end. I just want to leave
I
leave
like
people
that.
with that. Like, I learned that from Shia LaBeouf on a podcast, and those are my two mantras nowadays. Let's say, right? Like, I use this to survive all these different challenges that I get through the business. So Todd, I know there's gonna be some people that are gonna be, look, I really like what that guy was saying. I really like his story, and I want to learn more from him, and just to pick up his brain and stuff. So how can people find you?
They could go to my website, crackmycredit.com. And, there's a lot of good information there about credit. And you can also get the book on that site too.
Awesome. So, Crack the Code is the book. I'm guessing, they can
Crack the
find
credit
it.
code.
Oh, Crack the credit code. Sorry.
And actually, I just want to point out that the actual full title of the book is Crack the Credit Code. To play the game, you need to know the rules.
Because those that know the rules rule, right?
That's right.
That's what my one of my clients, David Perez, says, because he's a tax strategist, so he knows the tax code, and that's why him and his team and his employees or in his clients, they win big because those who know the rules rule.
Nice.
Perfect. So, thank you. And so, I want to leave you guys with that. So this was Todd Wilson and Fu, and this is us signing off.
Thanks for listening to Moments with Fu with your host, Fu. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we will see you on the next episode.